Hello and welcome to another entry of Give It a Year, a podcast diary by me, Jenny Q. Who am I? What is a podcast diary? And what's going to happen tonight? I'll be happy to answer all of those questions right now for you. My name is Jenny Q. I am an artist. I am an author. I'm a developmental services worker. I am a daughter, a sister, a friend, a girlfriend, a neighbor. I am a Canadian. I live in Fergus, Ontario. I am all of these wonderful things, as well as now a podcaster. And I have decided I wanted to create a podcast that is a podcast diary. What does that mean? That means it is a cyberspace where I am going to share creations and communications and commentary and reflections. And it's a space where I invite you to come and join me for one episode, multiple episodes, a whole season. That's completely up to you. One episode does not link to another. They're each their own piece of work, I guess, is a good way to describe it. This is not a podcast where I am going to teach you anything, or I'm going to solve your life's problems, or give you a solution, or sell you anything, or, proclaim that I'm this authority and that I know everything. Kind of the opposite. It is a cyberspace to create an alternative for people to come and hang out in a place with no expectations, no pressure, just a place to listen and maybe walk away with a few new ideas or concepts or whatever. That's it. Like a diary, it's just a place for me to place my thoughts and my thinking and share. I am now going to slowly, as a podcaster, I'm still learning. So I'm going to take this music down and I'm going to now jump into sharing with you the 4 promises I share at the top of every episode. So you know what to expect. Even though it's a diary, there is a format and there are Jenny rules. Let's call them Jenny Q rules. So, promises, I guess more so. Podcast promise number 1. I will be here every week. Every Tuesday, I will have a podcast. Promise number 2, all of my content will be original. That doesn't mean I won't reference other works or other artists or other authors. It just means I'm not going to sit here and read their work. I might quote something or share a highlight like I will tonight, but the content, the majority of this content is me, my creations, my thoughts, my commentary. Promise number 3, the content will be positive. And promise number 4 is I will always leave you with a question or an idea to ponder at the end of the podcast. Now, before we jump into everything, I have a challenge for myself. It is now 11:47 my time. In theory, I wanted to have this done and recorded by midnight, but I don't think that's going to happen. We will do our best because I'm really excited. I came home from work. As I said, I'm a DSW, a developmental services worker. I came home from work and I had a bit of a rest and a nap because I had to go to physio after work. So I didn't get home till like almost 7. So I took a rest, got up around 8 o'clock, and since 8 o'clock, I have been scribbling out, amalgamating notes that I've been putting together from a walk I had this morning, from earlier in the week, from ideas of what I wanted to share tonight. So last week I shared an original story. This week I'm sharing a piece of art I created. It's in the thumbnail of this particular episode, and it's actually one of 3 that I've created. And I'll get a little more into all the details. So the title of this week's entry, episode 3, entry number 3, is Faith Over Fear. So what inspired that? I've made some notes because otherwise we'd be here for hours. And I do want to make this a fairly short entry because it is late and I do have things to do tomorrow, but I definitely wanted to get this in. And because it's still Tuesday now, I'm qualifying it. Anyway, so faith over fear. If you look at the actual art piece, it is, the design of the piece is inspired. I love puzzles. I especially love word puzzles and visual puzzles. And my art pieces were inspired by like those word problems where there are visual clues, but you have to kind of figure it out. And this one was the one where you would always see like the word mind over a line, matter, and it's meant to be mind over matter. And I think that's just clever. So if you look at the piece, you'll see that the word faith is above an implied line of where the line is, and then fear. So it's faith over fear. And so what inspired this is I want people right now in the world, I feel there's a lot of angst, a lot of division, a lot of hate, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of politics, a lot of anger, a lot of confusion. And so the art piece there, faith over fear, the other two are joy over doubt and love over hate. They're just, they look really simple, but it really is encompassing one of my favorite universal laws, and that is the law of polarity. There's all sorts of laws. I'm not going to get into all of them. That'll be a whole episode on itself. But if you've ever studied personal development and positive mindset, you might have touched on universal laws. And one of them is the universal law of polarity. It's kind of my philosophy of life. And it is this: nothing is singular. Everything has an opposite, and it provides a frame of reference for its own value and for the value of its opposite. For example, you have yin and yang. You have up and down, hot and cold, left and right, good and bad, dark and light. It goes on and on and on. And so I didn't realize it till I sort of analyzed my piece afterwards. My art piece is actually encompassing my philosophy of life. And my philosophy is also about the fact that life is life's a series of decisions, and every decision you make, intentionally, unintentionally, consciously, unconsciously, those decisions, they unfold into what is your experience, into your life, and they create your memories. And it's just how it goes, decision after decision, right? So both my podcast today and the art I created were inspired by politics specifically. I'm in Canada, as I said, and in North America there is a lot of polarizing views, a lot of polarizing things that have been going on between US and Canada, but even within Canada itself, between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And there's just so much going on. I'm not going to get into that. That's not what this is about, but I'm just letting you know that the art piece I am sharing was influenced by that. And how did that influence the choice of what I chose, which is faith over fear? Well, myself, I am experiencing a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. And as I stated, it is about politics, but I realized how true it is that your mind can get tricked, and you can think that the world, if you're experiencing high fear, your whole world is fearful and that it's all justified, right? And I realized, because I analyze things, I realized that I was watching a lot of social media. I've been doing that for just over a year since our government Canada's new government got voted in last April 28th. And so I've been very glued to my social media, and it's been my algorithm has been getting fed with what I'm choosing to watch, right? So then my algorithm is feeding my feed, feeding my social feed. And so the key is that what is it that is influencing my initial choice of what I want to watch on the different platforms, of what I'm watching on Instagram and Facebook and all those other different platforms, right? And I realized that right now what's in my influence has been fear. fear of where the country's going, fear of my retirement, fear of so many things. And then, social media has this way of making you feel that this is how it is, right? Social media can make you feel that way. And it's not. It's just, as I was saying above, it's just your decisions and your choices that feed your algorithm, that feeds your feed. So if you watch things that are around violence, you're going to be fed violence. If you watch things that are about cars, you're going to get a feed about cars. If it's about cats, you're going to see cats. It's just how the algorithms work. They don't target you, except that they target what you watch. And if what you watch has anything rooted in fear, it's going to feed you more of that. And it's just how it goes. I can't explain it more than that because I'm not an IT person, or a social media person, but I know you know what I'm talking about, right? So it's just your experience based on your choices and your algorithm. And I'm going to give you an example from my life that really punctuated this, and I guess added to me wanting to share this tonight. I have an older sister. Her name is Sarah, and she lives in a different city than me. I live in Fergus. She lives somewhere else. Anyway, on September 10th, a fellow in the States, I'm sure you already know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to put a name in here or anything, but he was assassinated. He was murdered. And because my algorithm was full of politics, it blew up in my feed. It blew up in what I was watching, and the people I watched, of course, dove into it. And then there were people who dove into the topic, commenting on the people commenting on the topic. Anyway, it got really intense, really heavy, really dark. And so I was having a phone call with my sister, and I asked her, I said, so what are your thoughts about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And she says, who's Charlie Kirk? And it made me pause and think, because my sister is not on social media. She's a little bit older than me. I'm 52. She's a little bit older than me. And so she's not on Facebook. She's not on Instagram. She's not on TikTok. She spends her days reading books, watching movies, listening to music, and going to work. That's what my sister does. And talking to me and hanging with her cats. So something that felt so life-shattering and all-encompassing to me didn't affect her at all. And that's not to take away from the actual event. It is devastating. It is horrible. And it is life-changing, especially for his poor wife and his poor children. But because it was life-changing for them does not mean it was life-changing for my sister. And that, the intensity of social media, I guess, is one of the things I wanted to share tonight, is the idea that we get so sucked into scrolling, and sometimes I think we forget that our feed is perpetuated by what we choose to watch. So are we choosing things that are giving us happy feelings of faith or dark feelings of fear? What are you choosing? Ultimately, you are the one in charge of your experiences. So what is that? I am going to digress just a little bit about fear. I have been a student of personal development and goal setting and mindset, and how to navigate grief and depression and all sorts of things. And I've been doing that for about 15, 20 years. I've been reading different books and going to different seminars and creating all sorts of different art about it and writing different stories and that kind of thing. And one book that has crossed my path, and likely has crossed many of your paths, is called Think and Grow Rich. It's written by a fellow named Napoleon Hill. And in the back of his book, at one of the end of the chapters, around page 260, I think it is, 263, he talks about the 6 basic fears all humans have. And I just wanted to inject this in so you have an idea, or you have something to think about as I finish up and I wrap up the second part of what I wanted to share tonight. So he writes, there are 6 basic fears, Every human suffers from some combination of them at one time or another. And the 6 fears are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. Now myself, I think I've experienced all of those, some of them more recently than others. And I just want you to hold on to those different 6 fears as I continue on in this entry. And I promise I'll come full circle. I just have some things I wanted to share with you before I sort of go on to my little, it's not a rant, but my little share, I guess. So when I created my art piece, I don't want it to be misunderstood that I'm suggesting that fear is bad. What I'm trying to suggest with the art piece is whether it's faith, joy, or love, I'm suggesting it's a preferred choice, but there is a choice, and the opposite choice is fear, doubt, and hate. Now, all 3 of those things, fear, doubt, and hate, but specifically fear, fear has a purpose and a place. That's why it exists. That's why we have those sensations. That's why it's there. Fear is there to keep us safe. Fear tells us not to approach that dog who's growling and is baring his teeth. Fear is that thing that's telling us not to stand at the edge of a cliff. Fear is that thing telling us not to put our hand in the fire, right? Fear is also that thing that sets off little red flags when someone's gaslighting you. Fear is one of those things that makes you go, maybe I shouldn't be driving this fast in my car. Fear, it has its place, it has its purpose. One, to keep you safe, but it's also one of those things that you have to remember is a teacher, right? If you're fearing something, fear is, in my experience, something that's supposed to make you pause and go, what am I afraid of? What is going on? Am I not feeling safe? Am I feeling ill? Am I feeling unstable? What is it that has me unsettled? And once you understand that, you can use your fear as a guide, right? If you are fearing poverty, for example, are you going to sit there in that and let the fear just be like your social media feed and just feed it in a loop over and over again? I'm poor, I'm never going to afford anything, I'm poor. Or are you going to be, okay, I have a fear of not having enough money. I could get a job. I could sell something. I could go to the bank and get a loan. I could do this. I could do that. It could guide you down a path to resolve your fear. And then it's a good thing, right? And I'm not being all Pollyanna about it. It's just I've experienced this. I've lived this. It is that law of polarity. Without fear, you won't understand faith. And without faith, you can't appreciate the fear and the gift it gives you. And, it doesn't have to be like a safety thing. It could be you have a choice. You can either have faith or fear in other people. You can have faith and believe. And by the way, before I go on, I'm not saying faith is necessarily religious or God or, spiritual. Faith is a belief, right? So you could put faith in someone and you can say, I have faith that my partner is not going to cheat on me. I have faith that they got my back. I have faith that they'll be there. Or you can say, I'm scared they're going to cheat on me. I don't think I can trust them. Why are they with me? I don't know if I can trust this. Right? So, but ultimately it's your choice which one you're going to choose. So are you choosing faith over fear? So that's the art piece. And I'm sort of looking at the time, and like I said, I wanted to keep this fairly short, but I'm already at 20 minutes. My gosh. So I'm going to wrap this up with a little bit of a metaphor that I love to sort of bring home the whole point and the bit that I wanted to share about this art piece, and sort of the thing I was trying to hope this art piece would inspire in someone to understand. And if they don't, they can come listen to this episode. So the metaphor is music as an example of the law of polarity. So in music, you have opposite. You have the noise, so that's the vocals, the drums, the guitars, the music. And you have silence. You can't have one without the other. If you just have constant noise, it's noise. It doesn't make sense. And it might even fall into being white noise and have no resonance and have no purpose. Same with silence. If all you have is silence, you don't even know it's there because it's silent, right? But if you put them together, whether it's a 4-count, a tango, a country song, classical music, high tempo, low tempo, whatever it is, there are breaks and there are beats and there are moments of silence in between the notes. If you didn't have the silence in between the notes, you wouldn't have music. And without music, there's nothing to enjoy. So you can't enjoy the full experience of life if you don't have the opposites and you don't understand. So if you have faith, you're going to have fear. If you have fear, you can have faith. But it all depends on what you're feeding, your own algorithm. What are you feeding? Where are you getting your sources? And is what you're experiencing truly a world experience, or is it just your own experience? And what is there outside of all of that? And I just kind of jumped into the questions because I love to leave questions. So these are the questions I want you to maybe take away tonight and think about. What gives you faith? What inspires fear? And what does it mean to you? What can you learn from all of these things? So I kind of went off a little bit, and anyway, I am going to bring the music back up. I'm still learning, and here we go. Oh my gosh, I love this music tonight. And the last thing I want to leave you with, and I want to leave you with at the end of every episode, is I want to remind you that you're amazing. Everyone out there is amazing, and we all have the ability to change the world subtly, quietly. But when there's intention behind it, it's amazing what can happen, especially when you understand how easy it is. I feel like this music's a little loud, so I'm going to bring it back down. Here we go. Wah. There we go. So the 3 things I invite you to do, and I do my best to live like this every day. You can change the world by sharing your smile. Try it. Go smile at someone and see if they smile back. And if someone's having a day where it's filled with fear, maybe your smile could inspire a little spark of faith in humanity, a little bit of faith in the universe that the world isn't as awful and scary as we think it is right now. Share your laughter. Tell a joke. Do something silly. I can't even explain it. Laughter really is the best medicine. That's it. And share your love. Love can be anything, from a hug and a kiss to opening a door for someone, to being kind, compassionate. Share your love. I mean, I hear stories online, or I read different stories all the time of how people say, that one person, that stranger opened the door and made me feel like a person, and it made my day. Or I finally felt seen, So don't underestimate the things you do, because you do make a difference. I don't know you, but I know you do. I make a difference. That's why I create art. That's why I've made this podcast. That's why I'm out here. So, in summary, as I say, so long for now. Please think about the questions I put forward and help plant seeds of positivity in this world by sharing your smile, sharing your laughter, and sharing your love. Thank you for coming and spending some time with me, and I'll see you at my next entry next week.